Hey all, it's Nim, or Nimicry if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now today we're going to be talking about some upcoming class tuning changes. I actually chose a class that's getting buffed. It's a new thing for me because I generally play a paladin, and well, nerfedweekly.com. Anyways, before we get into that, I want to mention two things. One, feeling a lot better. I'm on a lung steroid right now. It's helping me breathe and kind of kickstart my immune system. And two, if you like what the channel does, or you like what I do in specific, go on and hit subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with everything the channel does. But without further ado, let's get into it. Hey guys, so this is Nim in post. Sorry about that. I forgot to include that I have a sponsor. So let's do that sponsor now. And now it's time for a word from our sponsor, Deving.net. Take it away, me. If you don't have enough time, your nerves are shot, or you can't find good pugs, but you still have a powerful need for epics and achievements, I suggest you try the sponsor of this video, Deving.net. Mythic Plus, rating, leveling, PvP ratings, and many other services, as you can see. The boost works with account sharing or self-play, so everything is done for you, or you can be carried. This service has been used by many people and has a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. For example, Mythic Plus Dungeons, something every WoW player needs. So we'll click on Mythic Plus Dungeons. I'll select the level, 15, to help knock out that Keystone Master requirement. We'll select Self-Play, and then, of course, Quick Purchase. This site's been working for many years and has a lot of clients, reviews, and, of course, payment methods for your convenience. You can check this out yourself, and if you use my code, Nimicry, you get a 10% discount on all services. So apply that coupon, bam, and you can see we just got a 10% discount. If by some means you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always click Contact Operator, and a member of support staff is more than willing to help you. Guys, check out Deving.net, and thank you for sponsoring this video. Longtime World of Warcraft players will be familiar with the Tuning Pass, or Balancing Patch. It's where they make the rough parts of the game a little smoother, according to the devs. Essentially, the game is not functioning how the devs want, so they're going to be like, we're just going to shave a little bit here, add a little bit there, tweak around the edges, and we'll get it done. You generally don't see huge swings in power on tuning passes. That's generally for expansions. If we remember correctly, I believe Evangelism once was 1.5 minutes, then in 1 week it went to 3, and in the same week it went to 1.5 minutes again on cooldown. So don't worry so much about this. This is going to be just tweaks. So let's talk about the upcoming class tuning for January 10th. Vengeance Demon Hunter, Devastation Evoker, and Mistweaver buffs. Now, there are a few other things going on there. This was posted by Squishy, so thank you, Squishy. So here we have the class tuning for the weekly reset, which includes many buffs. So, Blizzard, in a blue post here, with the scheduled weekly maintenance next week, a number of specializations will receive throughput increases to several spells targeted at improving their performance in Raid and Mythic Plus content. It is our intent that these changes help make these specializations viable options for raid and dungeon content. Now, here's the thing here. I want to point this out. Viable. The viable comes from two senses. There is mechanically viable. Can this class play at that level when operated perfectly? The answer is generally yes. Then there's also viable for community standards. The idea is, why would you bring a Frost Mage when you can bring an Arcane Mage? Frost Mage apparently is not doing great. Arcane Mage, when played well, is apparently rocking in DPS meters. Why would you do that? I don't know. I don't know if that's exactly the right thing here, but that's my point, is that one is, mechanically, the Frost Mage functions fine, at least to do M+ and raid content. Its number tuning may not be right in line with Arcane, ergo, people are going to be like, you shouldn't bring an Arcane Mage if you're going to bring a Mage. So do you have an Arcane spec? Even though you might be a great Frost Mage and a terrible Arcane, but the fact that they're like, I'm Arcane, they expect, there's certain community perceptions that go along with when they see those DPS rankings. One of the reasons why I hate the DPS rankings, because it needs to be made very clear, these are players that are very, very good at the class, not just Flavor of the Month rerollers. And hey, maybe one Flavor of the Month reroller can do that, but just keep that in mind. So here we have the Demon Hunter. The Hunt's damage over time effect no longer deals additional tick on application. Damage dealt over the total duration remains unchanged. For Vengeance, thick skin armor bonus increased to 130%, was 100. That's a pretty big bonus. Calcified skin initial damage reduction value was increased to 12%, was 10. And Painbringer's duration was increased to 6 seconds, was 5 seconds. Okay, seems fine. I don't play a Demon Hunter tank. A friend of mine, Holy, plays a Vengeance DH. I'm sure he'll be pretty happy with this. I will say that after the recent tank nerfs that happened, I think that everyone was reacting a little more globally than needed to be when it was just prot warriors that were having a little trouble. Then we have the Druid. So Feral, all ability damage increased by 3%. Okay, that's a good... I like those type of changes, because it says that we're basically where we want to be with the Feral, but we're going to just tweak it a little bit more to see what happens. All ability damage, 3%, so that means just everything across the board, 3% more damage. Your Ferals should be 3% happier. And if they're not, tell them be 3% happier. You know, and let's split the difference. Let's say 2.5, right? You don't want to be demanding. Evoker. Now, I've not played an Evoker outside of the leveling starting area, and I think I have one at like 62, maybe. I think. Anyways, it just doesn't speak to me. It's not my class fantasy. At least not as the Evoker is. I like the tools, but I just wasn't really for me. So for Devastation, Fire Breath damage increased by 10% for Devastation specialization only. Does not apply to PvP combat. Lay Waste increases Deep Breath damage by 15/30%, was 10 and 20. Eternity Surge damage increased by 10%. Firestorm increased by 20%. 5 Infinity generates 2 Essence on a critical strike, was 1 Essence. That's a big upgrade. Spellweaver's Dominance increases critical strike damage to 230%, was 220%. And Iridescence damage bonus increase to 20%, was 15. Those are pretty significant buffs. I will say that having a 10% damage increase for Fire Breath is probably pretty good. Lay Waste, of course, again, more damage for Deep Breath, Eternity Surge, Firestorm, all these are all great changes. And again, the point here is to make them more viable in Raid and in Mythic Plus. Now, the reason why we want to pay special attention to Evoker is that's the new hero class, for lack of a better term. So that means that they want to make sure those things are slapping, because that's what people re-rolled to. That's what people maybe bought the expansion for. Now, depending on who you look at and who you watch on YouTube, Dragonflight's doing worse than Shadowlands, but anybody who plays Dragonflight, I don't think they would say that it's worse than Shadowlands. I've yet to meet somebody with that take. But who knows? I guess if I could go on the WoW General forums and see, that, Dragonflight is actually the worst. It's like, I don't know. I signed up to do an extra raid tonight, yeah, to help people get tier. So, I mean, I don't know. I didn't do that in Shadowlands, really. Now we have the Hunter. Survival, all ability damage and pet damage increased by 2%. Butchery and Carve damage increased by 10%. Fury of the Eagle damage increased by 10%. And Wildfire Bomb damage increased by 15%. Okay, seems fine. Flame Strike damage increased by 15%. Living Bomb damage increased by 25%. Frost, the Frostbolt damage increased by 20. Ray of Frost damage increased by 40. Glacial Spike damage increased by 10. Now listen, I have not played a mage all that much, but I really like Glacial Spike. Especially because when I played back in Battle of Dazalore, and you'd see these big icicles just merge into one, and whoosh, and it felt very viscerally satisfying to cast. I enjoyed Glacial Spike. I don't know if it's the meta currently, but I really liked how it played. And of course, we have Monk. Efficacy of Stagger against magical damage increased to 45%, was 35. Cooldown of Celestial Brew reduced to 45 seconds, was 60 seconds. For Mistweaver, all healing increased by 5%. Vivify healing increased by an additional 5%. Blackout Kick damage increased by 6%. Rising Sun Kick damage increased by 8%. Tiger Palm damage increased by 15%. Spinning Crane Kick damage increased by 5%. And Awakened Phalanx now transfers 70% of Spinning Crane Kick's damage into healing, was 60. Those are some pretty significant changes. It's a good week to be a Mistweaver. Consequently, it was a bad couple of weeks to be a Mistweaver earlier, but those are good changes, and I like that. I never really did get... I think I have a Mistweaver at like 40, and I enjoyed some of the idea, like the channel healing, and then while it's channeling, I can also cast other things. That was cool. I didn't get quite skilled enough to do the fist weaving, but it was alright. When you level 2 or 3 healers in a row, you're just like, I don't want to heal anymore. Here we have the Paladin. For Retribution, Crusader Strike damage increased by 40%. Blade of Justice damage increased by 25%. Final Reckoning damage increased by 15%. Shield of Vengeance cooldown reduced to 90 seconds, was 120. So, as a developer note, Some of Retribution's main rotational buttons do not feel as good to press as we'd like, so we're making some changes to help improve their abilities. Oh my god! Yes! Additionally, their survivability isn't where we'd like it, so we're making some improvements to their defensive kit as well. We're looking at Retribution as a whole, and we'll have more to share in the future. Oh my god, please. 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 Like, if you don't have a lot of haste, Ret feels like it's moving in sand. When you get a lot of haste, it's awesome. Shadowlands Season 4 had a great rotational feel. You were basically, you're fishing for procs, but you were fast and hasty and just, cleave. It was great. Here we have the Priest. So it's holy. All the healing done increased by 3%. Not bad. Shadow, I'm very happy to see. Focused Will provides a 10% damage reduction for Shadow, down from 15%. Well, whatever. Mind Blast damage increased by 15%, Shadow only. Mind Flay damage increased by 15%. This includes Mind Flay Insanity, but not the proc from Idol of Cthulhu. Mind Spike damage increased by 15%. Void Torrent damage increased by 15%. Devouring Plague damage increased by 15%. Okay, so it seems like they were just like, well, let's just add 15% to everything. Now, as a developer note, these changes are aimed at improving Shadow's single target DPS. The change to Focus Will is a targeted change for PvP to reduce Shadow's survivability. Alright, I don't PvP, but hey, I'll take their word for it. Here we have Rogue, Outlaw. Precise Cuts talent, reduced bonus to Blade Fury damage per missing target below its maximum to 2 was 3%. Developers note, as we monitor the developing M+ meta and related data, we have recognized that Outlaw is overperforming. We expect this change to reduce the number of Outlaw's damage input in encounters with target count above 1 and below 8, as their damage is currently more consistent than we intend for dungeons and encounters that frequently present those circumstances. So Outlaw, it seems like you're going to get a little bit of a nerf. I'm sorry to hear that, guys. But you're rogues, maybe steal it back. And here we have Warlock for Affliction. Agony damage increased by 5%. Corruption damage increased by 5%. Drain Soul damage increased by 10%. Pandemic Invocation increased by 20%. Seed of Corruption increased by 5%. Shadow Bolt damage increased by 10%. Siphon Life damage increased by 10%. And Unstable Affliction Backlash damage is no longer increased from increased damage dealt modifiers or effects that increase unstable damage affliction. Boy, they really went in. Again, they were like a tune. So Warlocks looks like you needed some work. And of course, Destruction. Channel Demon Fire damage increased by 10%. Rain of Fire damage increased by 15%. Soul Fire damage increased by 20%. Infernal and Blasphemy Immolation damage increased by 10%. Conflagrate damage increased by 10%. This does not apply to PvP combat. Immolate damage increased by 10%. Again, not applying to PvP combat. And Incinerate damage increased by 15%. Does not apply to PvP combat. Alright, so I don't really do PvP. I'll let other people go over there. But we have some changes. Demon Hunter, Preservation, Mage, Arcane, Monk, of Mistweaver, Windwalker, Priest. Wow, they increased Holy Healing by 35% in PvP combat. The Serenity, of course, has a slight increase. That is just interesting. And they talk about, we also feel that Holy Word Serenity has not been as effective as we'd like at handling burst damage, so we're increasing that as well. Yeah, look, I like that. I think that's okay. They are, of course, reducing damage to Shadow and Assassination. Also, I don't PvP. This is all essentially nonsense to me. That being said, if you like PvP, you can check that out at the original post. So here's the deal, guys. We're having some class tunings, right? We're having some class tuning effects here. I personally think they're all pretty good changes. I feel bad for the rogues because, look, Outlaw gets suspended. Nobody likes when a really high-performing spec gets nerfed. And even if it may have to, still, I feel bad for them because it's like, I like everybody having fun and rocking and rolling. But that is what it is. So ultimately, did any of your classes get buffed? I know my main, Holy, actually got a buff, which is fantastic. And the fact that they acknowledge that, hey, something feels weird with Retribution Paladin unless we give you just an absolute metric ton of haste is a step in the right direction. Because I love the Paladin. If the Paladin's talent tree wasn't so jank, I'd still be playing the Paladin. But they made Lay on Hands a talent. Lay on Hands was a talent. Come on, guys. What are you doing? What are you doing? I don't know. Maybe I'll make it an alt or something, or eventually do something. But for now, I'm enjoying being the Holy Priest. So let me know in the comments below if you liked what the changes, if you didn't like the changes, if you think there should be new changes, and I'm sure there are many people who play WoW who think there should be different changes. With that, though, of course, we are going to say that I want to thank everybody who watched this far. If you like the video, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out the sponsor earlier in the video if that's something you're into. And of course, you can find me on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there is the Patreon. Everybody, I want to thank each of my patrons, Sunny Machine, Tyro Talks, Gamer Spam Live, Mosquito Fly, and Panther Dragon. Thank you all for that. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next video.